Hello and welcome viewers. In this video, we'll be talking about drought, a feature which has become more extreme and less predictable in the recent years due to climate change. This can be defined as drier than normal conditions. In simple words, it's a moisture deficit condition, or when there is an extended period with deficient precipitation, that is what you call as drought. A drought can last for days, months, or even years. But there are three types of drought that can be classified. The first one is meteorological drought. Meteorological drought occurs when the rainfall or the precipitation is less than average. So that is called as meteorological drought, and it's usually this drought that precedes the other two types. The second type is hydrological drought. This occurs when there is drying up of the water reserves, drying up of the lakes, the reservoirs. When there is drying up of the surface water, that is what we call as the hydrological drought. And the third one is agricultural or ecological drought. This mainly affects crop production or the ecosystem in general, because in this condition there is inadequate soil moisture. So that is what we call as agricultural drought. Whatever be the type of drought, its impacts are very, very severe. The first impact is that it leads to severe water shortage or water scarcity for human activities and even for sustainability of the environment. So that can lead to a huge humanitarian crisis. The second impact is that it leads to depletion of groundwater. And when there is depletion of groundwater, it brings us to the third impact, that is the stunting of vegetation. So crops cannot be grown, we cannot have forests surviving, we cannot have animals surviving. That will eventually lead to famines. And the fourth impact is that due to the drought and the high temperatures and the dry conditions, the presence or the occurrence of bushfires and wildfires is very, very high. So these are some of the impacts of drought. As you can see in the pictures here, these are from the 2022 European drought. So these three pictures have been taken from the European drought that occurred in 2022. And this is the Yangtze River in China. Yangtze River is the third largest river in the world, but its levels had fallen to half its average, and that had affected the shipping routes, it affected the drinking water supplies, it even caused blackouts in the province of China. All of this because of the lack of rain and a 70-day heat wave which led to the drying up of the Yangtze River. So this occurred in 2022 in China. These three images have been taken from the European drought that occurred in 2022. As you can see here in the first picture, dozens of explosives laden German warships which had sunk during World War II were exposed because the river levels had fallen down so much that these ships were now exposed. So this is near the Serbian town of Prahovo. And here you can see the completely dried up and desiccated riverbed of River Po, which is in Italy. And this is one of the major rivers of Italy. This drought was the worst in the last 70 years of Italy's history. It affected the drinking water supplies, the agriculture, and even energy production. As you can see here, these are certain hunger stones that were revealed when the rivers had dropped in their levels. So this was in the German and the Czech rivers where many such hunger stones had come up. These were remnants or relics of the earlier famines. So all of these are to bring to your attention that drought is something that is very, very real, and it has struck even in the current year around the world. So the causes of drought can be attributed mainly to insufficient precipitation or lack of precipitation. What happens is certain areas are located in such a geographical location that they do not have abundant monsoon rainfall, or in such areas there could be absence of perennial rivers, or the soil's water holding capacity could be very poor. Additionally, the depth of the groundwater could be much below, so it cannot be used for irrigation. But all of this gets aggravated when there is insufficient precipitation. The second major reason is the climate change, that is the global warming. Global warming has led to increased temperatures, and that increased temperature leads to excessive dryness as well. So climate change is again one of the reasons for droughts to occur more frequently in the recent times. There are several anthropogenic causes as well, that is human caused causes or man-made causes. The first one being deforestation. Deforestation totally hampers the water cycle, and that is the reason droughts have started occurring so commonly. Second reason is overfarming. Overfarming causes soil erosion, it causes desertification. All of the soil water is now completely sucked up because we have been doing excessive agriculture. So overfarming is one of the reasons why droughts are common in certain regions. We also have over exploitation of surface and groundwater for several reasons, which has led to droughts occurring more frequently. So these are some of the causes of drought. Coming to the control measures of drought. So drought monitoring and early warning systems is very important. By monitoring the precipitation, by monitoring the climatic parameters, we can predict drought, and accordingly we can take certain measures. Social forestry and wasteland development programs are also very, very important. Social forestry is where there is management and protection of forests and afforestation of the barren lands, of the deforested lands, with the purpose of helping the social, rural, and environmental development. So, all together, when the forestry is being taken care to develop that particular area, that is what we call as social forestry. And social forestry is a very good measure for tackling drought. Storage of water, using surplus water in water deficit areas. So in certain areas, if there is surplus excess of water, that can be supplied to the water deficit areas. Rainwater harvesting, this is something that has been taken up in several countries. Rainwater harvesting is key to increase the groundwater levels. Using drought resistant variety of crops, many of the research institutes are working on building drought resistant varieties, and the focus is also on cultivating crops which can sustain in less water conditions. So in areas and regions which already are prone to drought, cultivating crops which require less water or which use less water is a good option for controlling drought. Lastly, awareness amongst the people, amongst the public, to avoid overuse can help in dealing with drought in future. So these are some of the control measures of drought, and all of this sums up that we have the impact, the causes, and the control measures of drought. Hope this video was useful to you. Thank you. See you all in the next video.